You don't know where your husband is. You don't know if his self-esteem is going through something in his life right now. If he's thinking, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my body? Am I not sexually, attractive to you anymore?
Did you push record?
Thank you so much for tuning into Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Hi, Silka.
Hello, Paige. I'm glad that we're back to talk about, or continue talking about, a really important topic that we started, which is sexual health and, sexual intimacy after 50. On our previous videos, we had some pretty amazing comments from our viewers that really moved us to talk about what we're going to talk about today, which is the just importance of communicating through this time of menopause, what happens with our bodies, because it creates incredible resentment when your partner and you don't understand what's going on.
Right. So when we talk about sexual health, we're also talking about emotional health because it all integrates together. And like you said, we're going to talk about that. And we had a viewer who really gave a very detailed description of what's gone on in her life, and she's one of many that this happens to.
Yeah, well, and just to give a little bit more input, it's a viewer who is very well educated. She's a retired nurse. She should know her body, but through going through menopause, she was misled by several doctors and developed horrible vaginal dryness, which caused her not to want to have sex. Who would? It's so painful, and the resentment that built up with her and her husband, and her marriage is about to end. So that's what we're talking about, and I think just by mentioning that, we have viewers out there that can totally identify with that.
Yeah, and even if you do know your body really well, it's a territory that you haven't been to yet because you're 50 and over postmenopausal. So you're experiencing very different kinds of symptomatology, both physical and emotional. And it's, well, is it because of the menopause? Is it because of where I am in my life? Is it because of my relationship? Is it a compilation? So it's really hard to drill down as to what is going on. But no matter what is going on, the most important piece is the communication. And if in a marriage or a relationship, you have not communicated clearly and openly long before menopause comes, it's going to be that much harder and it's going to cause that many more issues.
Yeah. Well, and that's so much easier said than done, unfortunately. How do you counsel people at this point? How, like the point that she brought up, and really frankly, I fell into that. For me, it was irreparable. I left the marriage. The intimacy was gone, and it was irreparable. How do you repair when the resentment has built up? How do you counsel people or open that conversation?
Well, as you know, Silka, I'm very proactive. So long before this happens, it's what are you doing in your relationship to really voice your needs, your wants, and that's both for a man and a woman. And how are you actively listening to each other and compromising on some things and some things you can't compromise on? It really goes back to how has your communication been long before this? Then when you have the physical symptomatology that happens with your body, so many different things can come up. If you're married and your husband is not being intimate with you because you're having vaginal pain or your libido is completely tanked, you don't know where your husband is. You don't know if his self-esteem is going through something in his life right now. If he's thinking, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my body? Am I not sexually, attractive to you anymore? And then husband could possibly get very angry, very resentful. And then I've even seen sometimes, they think, are you making it up because you don't want to have sex with me? But as a woman, if you're not sharing with your husband, look, I'm having these physical symptoms, I don't know what it is, that's a big component. And then the flip side is, does your husband want to hear the intimate details of your vagina that's not sexual, of your libido, of your emotional stuff? Because what do men tend to want to do is, well, how do we fix it? And if they can't fix it, sometimes it just gets pushed to a side. So there's so many layers and complexities to what goes on post-menopause with sexual health.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know I fall into that category. That would be such a such a difficult conversation to open up, because you don't want to hurt the other person's feelings, and it's embarrassing. It's also embarrassing. How do you get past that?
You have to get over that, because hurting someone's feelings is, you have to be honest. There's a way you can say it in a tone that you can use that, maybe not cut as hard. So you have to be honest. You have to be authentic. That's bottom line. A lot of times, if I have women who come in and talk about, what they're going through, I'll invite their significant other to come in, to say, hey, have them come in, because sometimes it's easier to hear it from a third party, and I really want to hear what is their partner going through, what's it like for their partner, and this is a space and place where they both get to air what's going on, and I can coach them on which road to take, which area to talk about, to have them be a little bit more open, and I always give homework. Give them homework on what you can do to begin intimacy, because intimacy is not going to start with the sex. Intimacy is going to start with the communication, with doing things together, with being open to each other. That's where the intimacy is going to start most of the time.
Yeah. Well, and really in this case, if the communication starts, you can fix it. I mean, it really is kind of a thing where the man might get some pleasure out of fixing it.
You can fix it, but again, I go back to, what has the relationship been like before this point? Was it already to the point that this is the straw that breaks the back? So that's why this is never a black and white answer. It's, here's what you can do to start to communicate about what's going on. Go see a therapist, a counselor. You can go definitely to your doctor, but a doctor's not going to sit down as much with your significant other. If a doctor does, fabulous, but you need to delve into what's really going on in the marriage, sexually, emotionally, before things get to the place of so much resentment, and find out what it was like before you got to the postmenopausal place, because it affects both women and men equally, but in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things our viewer said that really, she was so honest and so eloquent. That's why I wanted to have this conversation, is that she has now sought out a doctor that's right for her, somebody that is focused on bioidentical hormones and the importance of it. She's counseling her adult daughters on the importance of early estrogen, et cetera, et cetera. And now that she's getting better, she has said, but I haven't shared this with my husband, because I don't know that he deserves me anymore, that I even want to have sex, how. And that's, again, when she said, this is such an important conversation to have, because I know that there's other women out there. Absolutely, I was one of them.
There's a lot of women out there. And when you talk about finding doctors, always remember that there's not just 1, 2, or 3 ways of dealing with the body, because each person's body is individual. It has a backdrop of everything else that's going on before postmenopause, disease, diagnosis, whatever. So read up on the different things that you can do to your body. If you don't like your doctor, and I'll tell you this as a woman and working with a lot of integrative doctors and someone, I've trained doctors on how to be with their patients. You have got to speak up and ask for what you need, what you want. And if you're not getting it, do not hold back. And if it doesn't feel right to you, trust your inner knowing and wisdom and go find somebody else. Start speaking to other women about, what kind of doctor have you seen? Do you have a referral? Because guess what? Women know women really well. And if there's so many of us who've made our way around different doctors, we'd be able to give more type of referrals and honest opinions. Hey, I tried this, try that.
Well, and we're starting, through this program, a big network of referrals and inquiries, etc. So if you do have questions, if this topic hits home, this video here doesn't necessarily provide the answers. It provides the forum to open this discussion. If you have questions, please leave them for us, and Paige and I will do our best to answer them and refer you to people who can help, because we've both been through it, me especially.
Just know that you're not alone out there. And the more we can speak up and talk authentically and honestly about situations that we might feel uncomfortable or embarrassed about, just know there's women out there who are going through it as well. There's men out there on the other end of it that are going through it as well. And it's like anything. We've got to start opening up and having conversations and not judging about what's going on with menopause, postmenopause, and relationships.
Exactly. And this all goes to our quality of life after 50, and we
Yes.
will continue to cover that deeply. Paige, we are at the end of our segment. As usual, the time goes by so fast.
Yes.
We will be back, with experts to address some of the physiological aspects of this. Paige, of course, you're wonderful with the emotional. We'll have other people with that as well. We will have experts with wonderful products that help rediscover sensuality, and we hope you'll join us often on our series on sexual health and intimacy after 50. Paige, thank you, and we'll see you soon on another episode of Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us today, and I hope you found this information helpful. If you haven't already done so, please just take 1 second and subscribe to our channel. Button's right over here. And for more information on living your life to the fullest after 50, please visit our website, secondact.tv. See you soon.